So, one of the most popular mistakes, in my opinion, that I've seen a lot of women doing in terms of in their dating experiences or how they handle dating is a lack of patience. Now, I know that many women would probably say the same thing about guys lacking patience and wanting to move a little bit too fast and stuff like that. But women have an issue that I see that's potentially keeping them away from finding their dream guy, which is a different way about the impatience. The guy may want to move too quickly before he gets time to get to know the woman, but that's move quickly in terms of advancing forward. A woman, on the other hand, may want to move too quickly in the opposite direction. So what I've seen is that women tend to be very, very hypersensitive in the very beginning. So they're talking on OkCupid, so that stage of the game, also first dates. They get into a very interview type of mode where, oh, your shirt isn't lined up with your belt. I don't mean that literally, but I'm just giving it as an example. The same way you see with interviews. You can do a great interview, but one little small detail is like, I don't know about this guy or this woman, right? That's how women can be when they first start talking to guys. And that's very dangerous. What happens is a woman will meet a guy who's potentially a great guy, and she'll run away because of something trivial. Because again, she's being hypersensitive to little, looking for all these red flags. And it's interesting because these same women will actually end up dating someone who there were major red flags that somehow she missed. But yet in the beginning, she'll run away from tiny, insignificant red flags. Well, she that's her perspective that they're red flags, right? So here's the thing that women need to understand and think about when you're meeting someone new. We as human beings are very complex. Our personalities are very complex. There's a lot of stuff going on. Sense of humor, level of communication, type of communication, a lot of different things that make up each of us in terms of our individual personalities. So with that in mind, and with also the reality that there's no perfect guy out there for you, you're going to need to be very, very patient when you meet a new person. Now, don't get me wrong, there can be some very significant red flags to run away from and to not play around with. For example, you don't like smokers. Guy says on his profile he's not a smoker. And he shows up on the date smelling like smoke, and he's got a pack of cigarettes. I think it's safe to say it's a smart decision to move on. The person already lied to you. And number two, regardless of the lying, they're a smoker and you don't like smokers. So that's fine. However, there's a lot of other things that I think women are kind of running away from that they shouldn't be. And what you have to consider is that it takes time to get to know someone, right? And without you knowing someone adequately, you can misinterpret certain things. You can look at certain behaviors and say, oh, this guy seems like he's very selfish. But maybe there's a reason why he did what he did, which if you knew the person better, you would understand why they did a certain thing, right? So that's what I mean. There may be underlying reasons behind certain behavior patterns that are scaring you away. And if you only understood them, you would have not run away. You'd be like, oh, okay, I understand. And one of the ways to deal with this is if you see something that's concerning you, rather than just running away, ask, right? And if you don't have the communication ability to bring something up, I noticed that you did such and such. I noticed you were very, you didn't seem very polite with the waiter. And I'm very, very big on that. Like, why did you say what you said? You know what I mean? Be very careful how you word it, of course. But the person can understand, you know what? You're right. You're totally right. I think I was a little bit rude. That's not normally how I am. However, just the other day, I had this problem at a restaurant and blah, blah, blah. And I guess it triggered. You see what I mean? So there could be an explanation behind it. But if you don't take the time to ask and find out or stick around long enough to get to know the person better, and you run away, making an incorrect assumption that this person is rude or impolite when there's a reason behind it. We're all human. None of us are perfect. We have our bad days and our good days, and we all have some level of baggage that comes with experience. I hate to use that word baggage because generally we speak about baggage, we're thinking about something that's pretty severe. But like in my example, person had a bad experience at a restaurant, right? That's their baggage. To come to another restaurant, they kind of have a chip on their shoulder about that, right? And you may look at that as, oh, I don't like people that are like have a chip on your shoulder. I want somebody who's positive, who like get over and move on. But again, we're not perfect. Whatever happened, it maybe happened at the wrong time. It triggered something. The person is human, and maybe they responded inappropriately the next time around when they suspected the same kind of thing was happening again. So it's very, very important. I think generally speaking, when you meet a guy for the first time, the main thing you want to focus on are the essentials, the things that are very important to a good relationship. Is the guy honest? Does he communicate well? Is he respectful to you? And unfortunately, respect, people have different interpretations of what they consider to be respect. For example, let's say you go on a date with a guy who's sexually open, and he starts talking about sex on the first date. Many women might take that the wrong way and think of that as being disrespectful. How dare you talk to me about sex like this on the first date? Like, what kind of girl do you think I am? But that's not necessarily something that's disrespectful. Some people are more open about their sexuality, right? And for people like that, talking about sex on a first date is not a big deal. Now, if you give clear indication that you're not comfortable talking about it and the person keeps talking about it, then that could be a problem. But even in that sense, no. I mean, if the guy sees that you're uncomfortable and he keeps doing it, that is a problem. However, there's another side to it. If the guy is someone who is just generally sexually open and he's looking for a woman who will be that way as well, he's looking for a woman who's not going to cower away or shy away from a sexual conversation on a first date, then perhaps you guys are not a match. And it's not that he's being disrespectful, it's just that he's being himself. And himself is somebody who's really not for you because maybe you're a little bit more reserved sexually. You want to spend more time to get to know them and stuff like that, and maybe sex is not as high a focus for you as it is for him. So there's a mismatch issue there. But the bottom line is, don't jump to conclusions. You want to focus on the really bad stuff. It's a guy who's dishonest, a guy who really doesn't care about you, really, really big, major red flag deal breakers. And even still, make sure you're sure. Because something could appear to be a big, major red flag deal breaker, and maybe it's not. Maybe you're misinterpreting something. So again, communication. Communication is key from beginning to end. So the very first, meeting with a new guy, if you have concerns, bring them up. And if you are afraid or too timid to ask a guy about something that is bothering you, then that is an inadequacy on your end in terms of dating and relationships. So no matter which guy you end up with, that's a handicap. Communication is essential. If you can't from day one, so you see something that's bothering you, you don't like the type of conversation, and you don't even have the ability to say that to him, that's something you need to work on, right? Because you're going to need to be able to bring up stuff like that. It should not be that big of a deal to bring it up, even on a first date. Right? You want to step your communication game up. But generally speaking, again, I think one of the most common mistakes I see women making is they're too quick to judge on a first date, maybe initially on online dating or whatever. If you have concerns, bring them up and be honest about them. Give the guy a chance to explain himself. Right? If your concerns are legitimate, then through communication you'll be able to establish that. Yeah, just what I thought was true. I asked him to explain it, and the answer he gave, kind of bogus. Time to move on. But for you to just jump to conclusions, and many times what women will do is, rather than even admit what the problem is, they'll send the guy some kind of vague text. And don't ever do this. Don't ever do this. if you've been chatting with someone for a while online, especially talking on the phone as well, and at some point in time the guy rubs you the wrong way and you want to move on, don't just send them a text. Call them on the phone. Have that I'll be alive. Give the guy the courtesy. Yes, we know there's some freaks out there, but that's part of life. Like, we're grown adults. As a woman, you should be able to handle pretty much anything on the phone. I don't care how much of a freak the guy is, or how he's like, oh, he wants to call you names or whatever because you called him out on something in a respectful way, of course. That's fine. You give him a couple of warnings. I don't like your tone, da da da, and then he keeps on. Then you just simply hang up the phone. I'm not a person to hang up the phone on people, but if I give you warning, I tell you what you're doing is not acceptable to me, and you continue doing it, I will hang up on you. I can't remember the last time I've ever had to hang up on someone. Maybe I've hung up on people maybe less. I could use one hand to maybe count them many times. I don't remember when. Generally speaking, I don't have to do that. But I'm a grown man, and most of you are grown women as well. And that being the case, you should be able to handle anything. So it should be. And if you're afraid of like conflict or whatever, that is another relationship handicap. So here's a chance for you to get over it. This is just a guy you're talking to online or whatever. Get some practice in handling conflict, because you're going to need it. Whenever you get into a serious relationship with some guy, it's not always going to be perfect. There's going to be times where things come up. And if you're just going to keep your mouth shut because you want to avoid conflict, and then it's silent treatment, that's how your relationships are going to fall apart. So perfect opportunity. You're talking to someone online. You haven't met them yet or whatever. You're in that process. You have an issue. Call them up. Hey, I want to talk to you. I enjoyed our time yesterday, but I think you really spent too much time talking about sex. Or I enjoyed our time yesterday, but I didn't like how you didn't offer me a drink and all this kind of stuff and whatever the complaints are. And hear him out. The guy his time is as valuable as yours. And I hope you realize that. If he has spent the time to talk to you, chat with you, meet with you, give him the courtesy of being able to explain himself. Something that's bothering you about his personality, maybe it's a misinterpretation. If you're not going to allow time to go on in terms of you're gonna okay, mental note, but I'm gonna keep talking to this guy and see if this is a pattern or this was just a random thing. If you're not going to allow that, then you need to bring it up. And live, not in text. Do not say something in text or chatting or whatever. Call them up. That's basic common courtesy. And that's also part of being mature and grown, which unfortunately we have a lot of issues with that, with men and women being immature relationship-wise. And that's why I have a lot of these problems with marriages and relationships in general. So anyway, patience is a virtue. And I highly recommend that when you're talking to some guy new, take your time. Personalities can be complex, and it takes time to get to know someone. All right? Don't jump to judgment on someone before you've taken the time to get to know them, or before you've given them the opportunity to explain themselves. All right, thank you for watching. Any comments on this, go ahead and let me know, comment below. And definitely subscribe for more content like this. And all the best of luck to every one of you on your dating adventures. And stay tuned for my dating adventures. I am currently on the market myself. Kind of more focused on career, but I am, doing a little bit of dating. I will be doing videos about my experiences with all kinds of different women that I've went out with, from executive level to just the, girl next door, different cultures, Colombian, New Yorker, you name it, and vast age groups, all the way up to I think 49, 48. So yeah, stay tuned for more. Thank you for watching, and all the best.